$3,716. That is the exact fee paid at a Western Union counter in Edison, New Jersey. A 58-year-old Indian man, a green card holder since 2014, works 12-hour shifts managing a Dunkin' Donuts franchise every single month for 9 years, sending money home to his aging mother in Lucknow and his younger brother's family in Kanpur. He sends $2,800 like clockwork on the 15th of every month. For 9 years, not a single month was missed until March 2026 when he missed a month. Not because he forgot, but because he could not. Because his bank account was frozen. A hold was placed by Bank of America, with the reason listed as a suspicious activity review pending a federal inquiry. Just 48 hours later, 2 agents from Homeland Security investigations were sitting in the parking lot of his Dunkin' Donuts location in Woodbridge. They had a manila folder with 73 pages inside. Every single Western Union receipt, every bank statement, his last 4 tax returns, total transfers identified were $291,000 over 9 years. They looked at his W-2 annual salary of $44,800, and then they looked at the transfer total. They asked one question. Mr. Sharma, how does a man earning $44,000 send $291,000 out of the country? He had a perfectly legal answer. He co-owns the franchise with his wife. She earns separately. He has rental income from a small property in Queens. All of it was reported on his taxes, and all of it was legitimate. But that did not matter in the moment. The investigation was already open. A suspicious activity report had already been filed. His name was already in the FinCEN database, and under the IRS and ICE data sharing agreement signed in April 2025, his tax return, the very document that proved his innocence, was the same document that put him on their radar in the first place. Rajesh is fine today. He was cleared after 11 weeks and $9,000 in legal fees, but 11 weeks of frozen accounts meant he could not pay his suppliers, could not make payroll, and could not send his mother her monthly money. This is what the system does in 2026, not just to criminals or traffickers, but to ordinary people running businesses and sending money to their families. The terrifying part is that Rajesh did nothing wrong. He never structured his payments, and he never hid income. He still got investigated because the rules have changed and nobody told him. Today, I am going to tell you everything he did not know. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly how the United States government tracks every dollar you send home and exactly what you need to do so that you never become the next Rajesh. Let us begin at Golden Seniors Hub. Let me start with the number everyone has heard but almost nobody understands correctly. $10,000. Under the Bank Secrecy Act of 1970, every financial institution in the United States is required by federal law to file a currency transaction report called a CTR with the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, or FinCEN. This CTR must be filed anytime a customer conducts a cash transaction of $10,000 or more in a single business day. It does not matter if you are depositing, withdrawing, or transferring. If the total in one day hits $10,000, a report is automatically generated. Now, here is what most people get wrong. They think they will just send $9,900 to be safe. That is not safe. That is a federal crime called structuring. The law says no person shall, for the purpose of evading the reporting requirement, structure any transaction. The penalty is up to 5 years in federal prison and heavy fines. Do not try to outsmart the system by breaking your money into smaller amounts. The algorithm is designed to catch exactly that behavior. If a bank suspects you are structuring, they will file a suspicious activity report, or SAR, and that goes directly to the authorities. Now, here is where it gets much more serious. On November 28, 2025, FinCEN issued a brand new alert regarding funds transfers. In this alert, FinCEN told every money service business in America, Western Union, MoneyGram, and others, that they must file a report for any transaction involving at least $2,000 if the agent suspects the funds are derived from unlawful employment or are otherwise illicit. Let me repeat that. $2,000, not $10,000. This means if you walk into a location to send $2,000 and the agent has any reason to suspect your income source is questionable, they are legally required to file a report on you. What gives them reason to suspect? The alert lists red flags like frequent transfers in round amounts, transfers inconsistent with your stated occupation, or using multiple locations. Think about how many of these apply to ordinary law-abiding people who simply send money home every month. If you drive for a rideshare or work in a restaurant and send $2,200 every month, the algorithm flags that. That report doesn't just sit in a database. It gets shared with over 300 federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies, including ICE and the FBI. This brings us to the part that changed everything in 2025, turning the IRS into an enforcement weapon. In April 2025, a formal data sharing agreement was signed between the IRS and immigration enforcement. Under this agreement, names and addresses can be cross-referenced against the taxpayer database. Your W-2s, your 1099s, and your tax returns are checked, and confirmation of identity and employment data is sent back. In the first batch alone, over 1 million names were submitted, and tens of thousands were verified and handed over. On May 13, 2025, a U.S. district judge denied requests to block this data sharing, ruling that the shared information does not fall under certain privacy protections. Then in early 2026, it was reported that the IRS admitted it had accidentally shared even more information than the agreement allowed. So you file your taxes as the government tells you to do, you use an ITIN because you do not have a social security number. And now that same tax return can be used to locate you and confirm your employer for enforcement action. This is not theory. This is the live data pipeline of 2026. On top of this surveillance, there is a brand new tax. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act, signed in July 2025, includes a 1% excise tax on all remittance transfers sent from the U.S. to any foreign country. If you sent money home starting in January 2026 using cash at a Western Union, you likely already paid this tax. But here is the critical exemption. The 1% tax does not apply if your transfer is funded by a withdrawal from a U.S. bank account, a U.S.-issued debit card, or a credit card. The tax only applies to cash, money orders, or cashier's checks. If you send $500 in cash every month, that is $60 a year gone in tax on money you already paid income tax on. If you do not have a bank account, you are forced to use cash, which means you are forced to pay the tax. You are being taxed and monitored simultaneously. In 2024, immigrants sent over $93 billion abroad. This tax is expected to generate $10 billion over the next decade, taken directly from hardworking families. There is also a Geographic Targeting Order, or GTO, for money businesses operating near the U.S.-Mexico border. In these areas, businesses must file reports for all transactions above a much lower threshold than the standard $10,000. If you live in Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, or Southern California, your transactions face a much higher level of reporting simply because of where you live. This creates surveillance zones where millions of families face financial scrutiny. The enforcement chain is clear. You send money, a report is filed, the database flags the pattern, your name is cross-referenced with tax data, and if your reported income doesn't match your transfer volume, like reporting $25,000 but sending $40,000, that triggers an investigation referral. This chain can begin with a single $2,000 transfer. To protect yourself, you must follow 5 concrete steps. First, use electronic transfers from a U.S. bank account whenever possible. This avoids the 1% tax and reduces the chance of being flagged because bank accounts have lower suspicion scores. Second, never structure your transactions. Do not split payments to stay under thresholds. It is a federal crime. Third, keep meticulous records of your income. Keep your pay stubs and tax returns organized. If your income is legitimate, your documentation is your defense. Fourth, file your taxes properly and on time. Not filing creates even more legal risks. Fifth, consider a joint bank account with a trusted family member who has full documentation as this allows for safer electronic transfers. The difference between using a bank account and using cash is the difference between safety and risk. Cash users face more taxes, more reports, and more flags. I also must warn you about informal systems like Hawala or Hundi. Operating an unlicensed money service is a federal crime. If you are already on the radar and then caught using these networks, your legal exposure multiplies. My advice is to stay in the formal financial system. It is monitored, but being inside the system with documentation is safer than being outside it. The $10,000 rule isn't the real threat. The real threats are the $2,000 threshold, the IRS data pipeline, and the 1% remittance tax. Every dollar you send is now tracked. Protect yourself and your family. Use the plan I outlined and share this information with others at Golden Seniors Hub. As we look deeper into the mechanics of financial oversight in 2026, we have to understand that the digital footprint of every transaction is more permanent than ever. The integration of artificial intelligence into federal monitoring systems means that patterns that were once invisible are now being flagged in real time. In the past, a manual reviewer might have missed a series of transfers sent from different branches, but today's algorithms are programmed to aggregate data from across all platforms instantly. This is why transparency is your greatest asset. When you utilize the traditional banking system, you are essentially providing a clear trail of the source of funds. In the eyes of the law, the source of funds is often more important than the destination. If you can clearly demonstrate that the money you are sending home was earned through legal employment, reported on a tax return, and held in a verified bank account, you significantly lower your risk profile. The system is looking for anomalies, wealth that cannot be explained or income that hasn't been taxed. By maintaining a clean paper trail, you ensure that even if an investigation is triggered, you have the evidence to close it quickly. Furthermore, we must discuss the evolving role of Know Your Customer, or KYC protocols. In 2026, these are no longer just about checking an ID. Banks are now required to understand the nature of the business for their customers. This means they might ask you why you are sending money or what your relationship is to the recipient. While these questions might feel intrusive, they are part of a broader effort to prevent illicit financial flows. If you are honest and consistent with your answers, it helps the bank categorize your activity as low risk. On the other hand, being vague or providing conflicting information can lead to a suspicious activity report. At Golden Seniors Hub, we always advocate for being prepared. Have a simple, truthful explanation ready for your banker if they ask about your international transfers. For example, I send a portion of my monthly salary to support my parents' medical expenses in India is a perfectly valid and helpful response that provides the bank with the context they need to approve the transaction without further flags. We also need to consider the impact of digital currencies and the proposed central bank digital currency, or CBDC. While many people believe that moving to crypto assets might hide their transactions from the government, the opposite is often true. In 2026, the IRS and FinCEN have developed highly sophisticated blockchain analysis tools that can trace anonymized transactions back to their original owners with incredible accuracy. Moving large sums of money through unregulated exchanges is now one of the fastest ways to trigger an audit. The government is moving toward a system where every digital dollar is accounted for. This shift is part of a global trend toward financial transparency, often referred to as the Great Reset of the financial system. For the immigrant community, this means that the old ways of moving money in the shadows are becoming increasingly dangerous. The safest path forward is one of complete compliance. It might feel like a burden to have your every move watched, but the alternative, facing federal inquiries or frozen assets, is a much heavier price to pay. Another critical aspect to monitor is the changing landscape of international cooperation. The U.S. is not acting alone. It is part of the Common Reporting Standard, or CRS, where over 100 countries exchange financial account information automatically. This means that if you have a bank account in your home country, the US government might already know about it, and vice versa. This global network is designed to catch tax evasion on a massive scale. If you are receiving rental income abroad and not reporting it on your US taxes, you are creating a massive vulnerability for yourself. The data sharing agreement between the US and India, for example, has become incredibly robust in the last year. Information flows back and forth with very little friction. This is why I emphasize the importance of working with a tax professional who understands international law. You need someone who can help you navigate the complexities of double taxation treaties and ensure that you are compliant in both jurisdictions. The psychological toll of this surveillance cannot be ignored either. Many people feel a sense of financial anxiety, worried that a single mistake might lead to deportation or the loss of their business. This is why community education is so important. When you understand the rules, you regain a sense of control. You are no longer a victim of a mysterious system. You are a participant who knows how to navigate the terrain. At Golden Seniors Hub, our goal is to turn that anxiety into action. By following the steps we've discussed, opening a bank account, avoiding structuring, and keeping perfect records, you are building a shield around your family's future. You are ensuring that the money you work so hard for actually reaches the people who need it, without being siphoned off by unnecessary taxes or stalled by legal battles. As we move toward the middle of 2026, we expect even more changes to the way money is moved globally. There are talks of a unified digital ID system that would link your financial history directly to your immigration status at every point of sale. While this hasn't been fully implemented yet, the building blocks are already in place through the data sharing agreements we've discussed. Staying ahead of these trends is the only way to remain protected. You need to be proactive, not reactive. Don't wait for your bank account to be frozen to start gathering your pay stubs. Don't wait for a letter from the IRS to start reporting your foreign income. Do it now while the situation is still under your control. In conclusion, the financial world of 2026 is one of total visibility. For the immigrant community, this visibility can be a threat, but it can also be a tool for stability if used correctly. By embracing the formal banking system and maintaining complete transparency, you remove the suspicion that triggers the system's defensive mechanisms. You prove that you are a productive, law-abiding member of society who is simply looking out for your family. This is the message we want to spread here at Golden Seniors Hub. We want you to be empowered by knowledge, not paralyzed by fear. The system is complex, yes, but it is also predictable if you know what the algorithms are looking for. If this deep dive has been eye-opening for you, please take a moment to share it with your community groups, your family chats, and your coworkers. These are the conversations that people need to be having before they head to the money transfer counter. The more people who know these rules, the fewer families will have to suffer through the stress of a federal inquiry. Remember, the $2,000 limit is the new reality. The 1% tax is the new reality. And the IRS-ICE pipeline is the new reality. But your ability to navigate these challenges is also a reality, provided you have the right information. Thank you for trusting Golden Seniors Hub with your time and your attention. We are committed to bringing you the most accurate, up-to-date information on the issues that matter most to your financial and personal security. Next week, we will be discussing the specific steps you need to take to protect your digital privacy when traveling, including the new CBP directives on phone searches. It is another crucial piece of the puzzle in staying protected in 2026. Make sure your notifications are on so you don't miss it. Stay informed, stay diligent, and always keep your family's future at the forefront of your financial decisions. I will see you in the next one.